Hello creative cooks, welcome back to another episode of the Creative Phebe Cooks channel. I'm your host Phebe, and I hope you're doing amazing. As you can see already, today's video is going to be packed with amazing recipes, and they all have a common ingredient, which is ginger. A good amount of it, not overpowering, but in a way that would make your immune system thank you. These recipes include a matcha ginger granola, tatale, also known as spicy plantain pancakes, which is a popular Ghanaian street food. I'll also be making some elderberry syrup, doing a few activities like gardening, grocery shopping, and all the good stuff. So let's get right to it by making the elderberry syrup, which will require a little amount of preparation, not as much as the others. This elderberry syrup is made with elderberries, aronia berries, ginger, cinnamon, and cloves. Now, I did not make the kit myself. I got it from the wonderful Elderberry Co. website, which is an amazing website that is helping people boost up their immune systems. This kit comes with instructions on how to make the elderberry syrup using an Instapot or a stovetop method. Whichever you have available is perfect for you. So this particular syrup requires only 3 ingredients. The kit, which comes in the ingredients in the sachet, water, and honey if you prefer to sweeten it. So set some water on the stove to come to a boil, and I'll come back to it later on to add in the kit, which is the sachet, to begin to extract the goodness out of the ingredients. Now, while the water comes to a boil, like I mentioned, all the recipes in today's video include ginger. So I took up the opportunity to plant some ginger, which would be my second time planting ginger. And I'd love to see how this works out in a carton, which is an excellent way to recycle your carton, especially if you do a lot of sustainable shopping. And what I mean by that is using paper products instead of plastic for environmental safety and awareness. All that good stuff, especially if you're into that. Here I'm preparing some old soil. I'm rejuvenating it. I'm going to add some water. I'm going to add in a liquid fertilizer. I'd add a link in the description box below for you to get your fertilizer if you are looking to do some gardening this spring. Together with that, I'll also add a link in the description box below for you to get your elderberry syrup kit so you can make some of that to boost up your immune system as we launch into spring full force. So after rejuvenating my soil, I'm going to add it to the carton that I have lined with tissue because I do not want soil to go through that. Line it up, fill it up with the soil, and then I'll be planting the ginger roots that I had soaked for at least 24 hours prior to this activity. Soaking ginger root is essential. It helps to hydrate the ginger. It also encourages the sprouts to grow out of the ginger root. Well, it also helps to eliminate any growth inhibitors have been sprayed on your ginger before it got to you. So it's always important that you use organic ginger so you can plant more ginger at home for self-sufficiency. You do not want to bury your ginger root too deep because ginger does not like to grow too deep in the soil, even though it's an underground vegetable. This is one of the first items I'm growing this spring season. So if you'd like to see everything that I'll be growing in my garden, be sure to subscribe and like this video. Let me know what you are also growing in your garden for self-sufficiency, growing your own food, learning about how food grows so you can do well for your body. Also, let me know in the comment section below, have you planted ginger before? What methods did you use? Was it successful? The last one I planted was successful, but the ginger rhizomes weren't large enough. So I'm retrying this method and I'll see how it turns out. The water for making the elderberry syrup has boiled. I added in the kit that was filled with all the ingredients. I'll let it come to a boil for 40 minutes on low heat and get on to making the matcha ginger granola, which is perfect for breakfast. It includes ingredients like ginger, very good quality matcha, and a few additional ingredients to bulk up your granola to make sure that it's catering to excellent health for your well-being. So let's start off by preheating your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. And after that, I'm going to grate some ginger. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but it's actually better to grate your ginger lengthwise so that it shreds easily when it's about all done shredding. Set it aside and make some flax gel by combining water and ground flaxseed. You can also do this with ground chia seed if you prefer. I'm not sure how that will work out, but if it works out for you, let us know in the comment section below. Add the ginger to the flax gel and mix this really well because you do not want the flax gel to clump up. You can sweeten this with honey, agave, date syrup, whichever sweetener of your liking. I'm adding in some coconut oil. You can substitute that with avocado oil, olive oil, whichever one of your liking. Next, season this with really good fine Himalayan salt. And after that, I'm going to add some matcha powder. I'm using ceremonial grade matcha powder. This one and this other matcha brand are great ones I've worked with. I've added a link in the description box below for you to get a stash of those because they're amazing. Now I know they are culinary grade matcha powders that a lot of people use in their recipes. I, on the other hand, prefer ceremonial grade. I do not mind the extra bitter taste I get from it, but it's also very high quality and I'm able to use it different ways, whether I'm making matcha drink or adding matcha to recipes like this. So I have here a bunch of seeds. Those include hemp seeds, pumpkin seeds, black sesame seeds. You can also use white sesame seeds, but the black are excellent for a nice contrast in this recipe. Add in some old-fashioned oats and crumble up some unsalted rice crackers to add a really good crunch to this granola. You would love it when it's time for you to have breakfast or even to munch on as a snack. Add in the slurry wet matcha mixture that you made earlier to the dry mixture and stir well to coat every dry ingredient. Then garnish this granola mixture with some toasted coconut shreds as well as some goji berries. Stir it all up in there. In fact, instead of stirring it, fold the ingredients into the green granola mixture, and all that's left to do is to spread this granola mixture on a parchment lined baking sheet so we can get to baking, and these bake for about 15 to 20 minutes depending on your oven. And I'll show you a very amazing trick on how to make sure that your granola turns out into chunks. So you got to spread it with a spoon until it's very nice. You want to make sure that your granola is tightly packed and flat on the parchment paper before you get to baking, so that when it bakes, the granola will turn out as a nicely baked slab that you can break up to your liking after it's done cooling. That's another trick. You gotta make sure it's flat and tightly packed and totally cooled before breaking it up. While the granola is baking, I'm going to do a light chopping to make a juice that I'll be serving with the tatale later on in this video. It's going to be a beet apple juice. I'm also getting some raw honey to sweeten the elderberry syrup after it's done cooling. the granola is all done, well toasted. It's a bit crunchy around the edges, but I'll show you how to brighten up this granola after it's done cooling. Transfer the toasted slab to a cooling rack so that the granola gets the chance to cool all the way through before I break it up into chunky pieces. After cooling it, transfer one slab to the other slab in a baking tray and break them up according to your preference. After that, I'm going to spruce this granola up with some toasted coconut shreds as well as some goji berries. These are ingredients that I included in the main making of the granola. And hey, I do have a full recipe for this granola on my blog at creativephebe.com. I'll include a link for that in the description box below so that you're able to pin this recipe on Pinterest, save it on your playlist so that whenever you want to make some, it's going to be right there for you. Ingredients, directions, as well as a video, the whole shebang. Store your granola in an airtight and clean, dry mason jar. A glass container is most preferred. You can serve your granola with yogurt, milk as a nice topping for porridge, however you prefer. I had mine with coconut cream and it tastes amazing. Next on the list is tatale, spicy plantain pancakes. I have to say, these pancakes have really made it on my favorite list of tasty breakfasts to have. This recipe is quite spicy. Let me just share that information. It is completely gluten-free. My version is. The original one does have all-purpose flour in it as it's made in Ghana. I'm starting off with large ripened plantains. They must be ripe. You must use plantains that are overripe to make this recipe because they're soft. They have a particular level of acidity that will really make this recipe taste amazing. I'm also adding in some previously mashed plantains that I wanted to use for a previous recipe. So since I didn't get a chance to do that, I just added it to the plantains I just peeled for this recipe. Now I'm going to be making my own millet flour. This is a great way to make your own flour, especially if you have certain allergies, because a lot of industries use the same machine to process gluten-full grains. So if you want to make your own flour, I suggest you get a coffee grinder like this. Add your grains in there, depending on the size of your grains as well, because you never want to overwork your grinder more than it's required to be used for. So grind up the millet flour, set it aside, and prepare the aromatics, and those will include an onion. I know. Have you ever had an onion in pancakes? No, but trust me, it's delicious. Okay. After that, set it aside. I'm going to peel up my ginger, and other spices include cinnamon, allspice, some nutmeg, as well as a very beautiful habanero pepper. If you know me, you know I love my habaneros, and I surely will be planting some habanero peppers this spring, so stay tuned for that. Now, normally an asanka, which is a Ghanaian style of a mortar and pestle, is used to grind these ingredients. But since I'm here in the Western world and I do not have a mortar and pestle, I'm going to be grinding all those aromatics together with some salt in my food processor until it's roughly chopped. And then I'm going to add in the plantains because I want this to be a nice, smooth batter. If you want your plantains to be a bit chunky, you can do that too. All right, so add it in there. I'm going to give it another good processing before adding in the flour. I'm using millet flour. I'll also be adding in some water, and after that I'm going to add in some sorghum flour. I was actually making this recipe for the first time and doing some taste testing before rendering the recipe, and I realized that it's better to use these two flours so that the pancakes have a good consistency and also have a good hold to them, so that your pancakes don't flop when you're turning them in your cast iron skillet. After grinding everything in your food processor or your mortar and pestle, a sanka, whichever it is, pour all the mixture in a bowl, which also is a giveaway for you to make this recipe maybe the night before, so it's ready for you to make the morning that you need it. You can also freeze it in case you need it for a later date. Set it aside, and I'm going to check on my elderberry syrup. It's all done. It did amazing. It extracted the goodness from all the ingredients. I'm squeezing out the water from the sachet because it does have a bit of goodness in there. Cover the pot, let it cool down completely, and then the last thing would be to add a sweetener at the end. But I'm gonna do that after making the tatale because I know you're excited to see these pancakes come alive. So let's get right to it. Start off by drizzling some avocado oil or palm oil, which is how the original recipe is made, and start to ladle or spoon some of the batter into your well oiled and brushed cast iron skillet. I cannot stress enough how amazing my cast iron skillet has come in clutch for certain recipes that I could not have made otherwise. It adds a very good character to these pancakes. Now, the first few pancakes you will make, depending on how cured your cast iron skillet is, these pancakes might turn a little bit on the charred end, and that's okay. They're still delicious, but it's a good way to prep the cast iron skillet before making pancakes with the rest of the batter. After ladling the batter into cast iron skillet, the pancakes cook for about 3 to 4 minutes on low to medium heat because you want to make sure the pancakes are cooked all the way through, and you don't want your cast iron skillet to be too hot. And then flip the pancakes after the edges have started drying out and allow them to cook for an extra 3 minutes until they're done. Tatale is served with aboboy, which is a stewed bambara bean. But since I do not have bambara beans, and the most similar bean to bambara are chickpeas, I made a chickpea and kale curry stew. I'll show you what that looks like in a few minutes, but I also do have a full recipe for that on my website. I did share that recipe sometime last year, and a lot of you guys loved it. So that's an excellent way to make something similar to aboboy. And here it is. It has kale, it has chickpeas, it's delicious, it's a curry. And I'm looking forward to making bambara stew. It does look a little bit like baked beans when I saw it on YouTube, and I'm excited to see what that turns out. Alright, so here I'm serving the tatale with the chickpea curry and kale. I'm serving it together with the beet and apple juice with a nice garnish of lemon verbena leaves, which is a great herb that you can plant this spring. Now let's give this a taste. It's spicy. The curry is spicy, the plantains are spicy, which is a nice double notch of spice. But if you don't like spicy, I highly recommend that you tone it down for your own liking. Again, like for the granola, the full recipe for the tatale is on my website. Now let's sweeten the elderberry syrup. I'm adding in honey, but I think I did mention you can also add in date syrup. You can add in agave. My preferred is honey. It just makes more sense to me. Stir it into the slightly warm syrup until it's completely dissolved. Then store it in an airtight, clean, I'd like to say sterilized mason jar before labeling it and keeping it in your fridge. It does stay fresh for about 30 to 60 days. That way you're able to have elderberry syrup to boost up your immune system. I like to take it first thing in the morning after taking my vitamins. And there you have it, y'all. 3 amazing recipes using ginger. You may find a full recipe for the tatale and the matcha ginger granola on my website at creativephoebe.com. I've included those links in the description box below. And with that said, thank you so much for watching. If you love this video, be sure to give it a huge thumbs up. Be sure to comment, share it with your loved ones, and we'll chat again in the next episode. Later!